Welcome back to our channel, your ultimate insider source for the most explosive daytime drama. Today is a thrilling day to unpack the catastrophic fallout rocking Los Angeles. We have shattered marriages, ruthless power plays, and dark secrets rising from the grave. Let us dive straight into the heart-stopping chaos about to unfold on The Bold and the Beautiful. The heavy oak doors of the Forrester Creations CEO office swing open with a violent, echoing thud, shattering the suffocating silence of the darkened room. John Finnegan stands in the doorway, his chest heaving, his eyes frantically adjusting to the shadows. He has just survived an agonizing, mind-numbing transatlantic flight from Monaco, a journey defined by turbulence that perfectly mirrored the catastrophic panic tearing his soul apart. He raced through the labyrinthine corridors of the fashion empire with a singular, desperate mission to save his fractured marriage before the damage became permanent. But as the ambient light from the hallway spills into the pitch-black executive suite, Finn's entire universe grinds to a horrifying, sickening halt. He does not find his wife weeping in solitude or pacing the floor in anger. Instead, he finds Steffy Forrester Finnegan standing dangerously close to Carter Walton, their bodies enveloped in the shadows, sharing hushed, intimate whispers that radiate a dark, lethal energy. The visual alone is a brutal, paralyzing blow to Finn's chest. The atmosphere in the room is not one of innocent comfort. It is a calculated, terrifying pact being forged in the dark. Finn steps over the threshold, his voice trembling as he calls out his wife's name, desperate to shatter the undeniable intimacy of the moment. Steffy turns slowly, the ambient light catching the absolute zero temperature of her glare. There is no relief in her eyes, no lingering trace of the miraculous love that once conquered death itself. There's only a feral, unyielding rage. Finn launches into a frantic, breathless plea, begging her to understand his impossible position, pleading for a chance to explain why he kept Sheila's presence in Monaco a secret. He takes a step forward, his hands outstretched, desperate to bridge the massive emotional chasm that has ripped them apart. Steffy does not flinch. She does not waver. With a chilling, methodical calmness that is far more terrifying than any screaming match, she reaches into her pocket. Her fingers curl around the cold metal of her wedding ring, the same ring she had hurled at him on the sun-drenched beaches of the Riviera just hours prior. Without a single word of hesitation, she pulls her arm back and violently throws the ring directly at Finn's chest for a second, devastating time. The heavy jewelry strikes him with the force of a bullet before clattering loudly against the polished hardwood floor, the metallic ringing echoing through the tense silence of the office. Steffy's voice finally cuts through the darkness, sharp and venomous, declaring that his silence regarding the psychotic woman who nearly murdered them both was the final, unforgivable stab in the back. She announces with absolute finality that their marriage is not just fractured, it is dead. The sheer finality of her words sends a shockwave of adrenaline and pure panic through Finn's veins. But before he can even attempt to close the distance between them, a massive, immovable obstacle blocks his path. Carter Walton steps out of the shadows, deliberately placing his broad frame directly between the shattered husband and the furious wife. Finn's eyes dart from Steffy's cold glare to Carter's stoic, dangerous expression, and a horrifying realization crashes down upon him. Carter is not just standing there as a supportive colleague or a friendly shoulder to cry on. The Forrester Creations chief operating officer has actively stepped into the role of Steffy's ultimate protector, replacing Finn in the very space he was supposed to occupy. The dynamic in the room shifts from a marital dispute to a high-stakes, alpha-male standoff, the air crackling with explosive, unspoken threats. The confrontation instantly detonates into a volatile, screaming match. Finn's desperation morphs into a blinding, territorial rage as he points a trembling finger directly at Carter's chest. Finn fiercely accuses the lawyer of crossing a massive, unforgivable line, screaming that Carter is deliberately preying on a traumatized, vulnerable woman during the absolute lowest moment of her life. Finn demands that Carter step aside and let him speak to his wife, his voice cracking with the sheer agony of watching another man shield the woman he loves. Carter does not move a single inch. His jaw is clenched, his posture radiating a lethal, protective energy that silently dares Finn to take another step forward. Carter's recent devastation over his own shattered future with Daphne has left him unmoored, dangerous, and fiercely loyal to the one woman who is currently matching his dark, vindictive frequency. Just as Finn prepares to physically shove Carter out of the way, Steffi delivers the fatal, killing blow. Stepping slightly out from behind Carter's massive frame, she looks her husband dead in the eye and delivers a sentence that will haunt him for the rest of his life. With zero hesitation and absolute, chilling conviction, Steffi declares that she trusts Carter Walton far more than she will ever trust her own husband. The words hang in the air, a brutal, undeniable execution of their vows. Finn physically recoils, the breath completely knocked out of his lungs. The man who survived a gunshot wound in a filthy alleyway is completely, irreparably shattered by a single sentence. He stares at the woman he loves, realizing in a moment of pure, agonizing clarity that he has not just lost his wife. He has been actively replaced by a man willing to cross the dark lines he refused to cross. While the Forrester empire crumbles under the weight of marital destruction, a completely different, equally catastrophic war is being waged across town at the sprawling Spencer estate. Katie Logan Spencer is currently operating on pure, unadulterated maternal instinct, transforming her luxurious home office into a highly classified war room. She has always possessed a razor-sharp intuition, and every single alarm bell in her mind has been screaming since the moment Melissa Dillon waltzed into Will's life. Katie is not a woman who sits back and waits for disaster to strike. She actively hunts it down. With ruthless precision, she has launched a full-scale, aggressive investigation into Dillon's elusive past and her current digital footprint. The glowing screens of her laptops illuminate the dark room as Katie meticulously pieces together the horrifying truth about the woman sleeping in her son's bed. The digital receipts are damning, explosive, and undeniably terrifying. Katie's eyes widen in absolute horror as she uncovers a massive, highly calculated trail of Dillon's recent internet search history. Dillon has not been looking up romantic getaway destinations or fashion trends. She has been systematically, obsessively researching the Spencer family's massive, global fortune. Katie scrolls through pages of deep-dive inquiries into the Spencer Publications trust funds, the offshore accounts, the real estate holdings, and the specific inheritance clauses tied directly to Will Spencer's name. The evidence paints a chilling, undeniable portrait of a highly motivated, incredibly dangerous predator who has targeted the youngest Spencer heir for a massive financial payout. Katie's blood runs cold as she realizes that Dillon's sudden, passionate interest in Will is nothing more than a meticulously crafted, gold-digging operation designed to drain the family dry. Armed with a thick, undeniable dossier of financial espionage, Katie storms out of the Spencer estate like a hurricane making landfall. She drives recklessly toward the beach house, her hands gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckled fury. She kicks the front door open, entirely bypassing any pleasantries, and marches straight into the living room where Will is casually lounging. Without a single word of greeting, Katie violently slams the thick stack of printed evidence directly onto the glass coffee table, the sharp smack echoing through the serene beachfront property. She launches into a blistering, rapid-fire interrogation, demanding that Will open his eyes and look at the undeniable proof staring him right in the face. Katie screams that Dillon is nothing more than a ruthless, calculated gold digger who is expertly exploiting Will's recent, devastating heartbreak over Electra Forrester to secure a permanent, lucrative place in the Spencer empire. Will stares at the scattered documents, his jaw tightening, his eyes flashing with a dangerous, defensive rage. Instead of reading the files, he shoves them off the table, the papers fluttering to the floor in a chaotic mess. Will is completely, utterly sick of his mother's relentless, suffocating interference in his personal life. He screams back at Katie, his voice echoing with years of built-up resentment, declaring that he is a grown man capable of making his own choices. He vehemently defends Dylan, twisting the narrative to accuse Katie of being a paranoid, controlling nightmare who cannot stand the idea of him finding happiness outside of her strict parameters. The confrontation escalates into a vicious, toxic screaming match, with Katie begging her son to see the massive red flags and Will brutally shutting her down, completely blinded by his own desperate need for independence and affection. Determined to prove his mother wrong and assert his absolute dominance over his own life, Will makes a reckless, highly public move that sends shockwaves through the Los Angeles social scene. He grabs Dylan by the hand and drags her directly to the Bikini Bar, the most highly trafficked, gossip-fueled hotspot in the city. Will does not just take her out for a quiet drink. He actively, aggressively parades Dylan in front of the entire crowd, pulling her into deep, passionate kisses and loudly ordering the most expensive champagne on the menu. He is deliberately putting on a massive, defiant spectacle, ensuring that every single person in the room, including the Forrester and Logan loyalists, witnesses his absolute commitment to Elektra's former best friend. It is a bold, arrogant middle finger directed straight at his mother's investigation, a public declaration that he will not be controlled or intimidated by Katie's threats. Katie, having followed her son to the bustling venue, stands completely hidden in the shadows of the outdoor patio, watching the sickening display unfold. Her eyes dart between Will's desperate, performative arrogance and Dylan's smug, triumphant smirk, as Katie watches Dylan lean in and whisper something into Will's ear, something that makes Will's entire posture instantly stiffen with a sudden, submissive tension. A horrifying, chilling epiphany crashes over Katie like a tidal wave. The dynamic between them is all wrong. Will is not acting like a man blindly in love. He is acting like a man who is trapped. The financial research is just the surface level of the grift. Katie's brilliant mind races, connecting the invisible dots, and suddenly, the terrifying truth clicks into place with devastating clarity. Dylan is not just after the Spencer money. She is holding a massive, destructive secret over Will's head. The ghost of Luna Nozawa suddenly materializes in Katie's mind, the dark, sinister memories of the deceased villain flooding back with terrifying relevance. Luna had committed a string of horrific, evil acts before her life was violently snuffed out in a fatal car crash. Katie knows the deeply buried, highly classified truth. Melissa Dillon was the one behind the wheel of the car that ended Luna's reign of terror. More importantly, Katie knows that Will Spencer is fully aware of this deadly secret and has been actively, quietly covering it up to protect Dylan from the authorities. The horrifying realization paralyzes Katie in the shadows of the Bikini Bar. Dylan is not just a gold digger. She is a ruthless blackmailer. She is expertly using Will's complicity in the Luna Nozawa cover-up as the ultimate leverage, holding his freedom and the Spencer family reputation hostage to ensure his absolute, unwavering submission to her demands. The stakes have suddenly skyrocketed from a messy romantic entanglement to a highly dangerous, criminal conspiracy that threatens to obliterate the entire Spencer legacy. Katie watches her son clink glasses with the woman who holds the keys to his destruction, her maternal fury morphing into a cold, calculated dread. Will is completely trapped in a deadly psychological web, bound by a dark secret that Dylan can detonate at any given moment. Meanwhile, across town, Finn stands in the shattered ruins of his marriage, staring at the woman he loves as she actively chooses another man to protect her from the looming threat of Sheila. The Forrester and Spencer empires are simultaneously sitting on massive, ticking time bombs, with devastating betrayals, lethal pacts, and buried bodies threatening to drag every single player into an inescapable abyss of destruction.